Joining us right now is Alan Wolff, Distinguished Visiting Fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Put all of this in perspective, if you will, Alan, for us this morning. Carter's presidency, his thoughts about opening markets, and perhaps where we are as a country today.
Well, Carter focused on opening markets abroad in two major ways. One is our major competitor at the time was Japan. People forget about it, but back when Carter was president, it was going to be the century of Japan. Was heralded in the newspapers, and we couldn't sell things in Japan, couldn't get things into Japan. Market access was very difficult, and then also global trading rules. So Carter did two things. One is he concentrated on opening the Japanese market, and the Japanese market became open ultimately. And he focused on setting international rules. It's not just tariffs. Tariffs are a minor irritant for most products, compared with, vary by a couple of percent from country to country, compared with product standards. Right. He put into effect a product standards code. You can't sell a product at all unless it meets a standard.
Alan,
so, yes, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what do you think President Carter would think of the situation with Nippon Steel and US Steel today?
Well, Nippon Steel was a vigorous competitor and not a fair competitor for years and years and years, and you'd have to get across that. But Carter, I think, could get past that to say what's best for the workers of U.S. Steel in terms of that acquisition, and what's best for the U.S. economy, and look at it fairly without emotion as to it's the Japan of today, not the Japan of 50 years ago that we're facing. Was that the best option for U.S. Steel? It deserved to be looked at dispassionately on the facts. So I think he would not have intervened politically. He would have been sympathetic to the unions, of course, Democratic president, sympathetic to the workers, but also sympathetic to how's U.S. Steel going to survive, prosper in the future.
Alan, you wrote a remembrance of President Carter in the Washington Post, and you wrote this: "President set the tone for the country. Carter rebelled against the imperial presidency." And then you talked about him famously getting out of the limousine on the way back from his inauguration, walking with his wife down Pennsylvania Avenue. You also talked about what you thought was his exuding this personal integrity. And I just wonder if that remembrance is a commentary on today, if that's a commentary on him, if that's a commentary on where this country is.
It is both. I mean, with Carter, what I said in that piece was that America would keep its word. There was no doubt whatsoever under the presidency of Jimmy Carter. If we had a trade agreement, we'd live up to our trade agreement obligations. And we had agreements with other countries, and we did live up to those obligations. But also on a personal level, he couldn't be bought. He couldn't be swayed by a political contribution or anything even more personal than that. On one occasion, he was given a watch, not by a member of the public, but by a member of his administration, and because it was a watch that would appeal to him as an engineer. It had all the time zones around the world on the watch. It was a Seiko watch, and wasn't much available at that time. And so he wore it for a day, and then he decided he's got to go back. I'm not accepting gifts from anybody. So it was a different era, but it was also a different man. And personal integrity really matters. He was a man of principle. So it poured over into trade policy because America would keep its word, but Jimmy Carter would keep his word. And that personal integrity infused his government. It made a difference.